Okay, yesterday I made a video that many of you watched and many of you commented on, and it was basically describing some of the tragedy that is war, some of the horrors of brutality of what war means and what I witnessed. And the video, I think it was called "This is Awful, but you need to watch it anyway" type of thing. It's just if you want to see it, and I won't rehash all the things that went into that here. But what I want to do is further expand upon some things because there are a lot of comments and questions about things, and I think it deserves some further explanation or some further further developing some thoughts. And you know, think about in the United States anyway, a lot of us that have gone into the military, uh, people go into the military for various reasons. Some people go in because they're just poor, they're impoverished, and it's a way out. It's a way out. Perhaps some people are seeking a way to pay for an education. Some people just have, they want to see the world. There's a promise of seeing different parts of the world. Some people will go in because they need discipline. Perhaps they lacked, strong parenting. Maybe they didn't have a father or something like that, and they need discipline in their life because their life is careening out of control, and they need to get, on the right path. And many, believe, they had a patriotic duty, that by supporting the military, you were supporting the values of what this country was founded upon. You were protecting our way of life, our family's way of life, our community's way of life, what our Constitution represents. Some people actually believe that and do that. Nobody goes into the military because they want the CEO of Halliburton to make an additional $50 million on his bonus that year. No one goes into the military because they want some executive at Lockheed Martin to buy an extra yacht for his wife. No one goes in there so that the shareholder or the board of directors at ExxonMobil can buy their sixth vacation home on the Amalfi Coast in Italy, right? That's not why you go in. That's not why you do that, right? But then, you think about, for instance, I was in Afghanistan, and many thousands and thousands of U.S. military went there to support those operations, Afghanistan, Iraq, the entire Middle East. Many people were killed. The numbers are staggering, on both sides. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people lost their lives. Many of them that were injured have forever had their lives altered forever, and then their family members that are affected by this. The numbers affected by this, with the sacrifice, the tragedy, is into the millions for sure. Millions of people have been irrevocably harmed due to something like this. And is it justifiable? Is it worth it? You think about it. Who benefited from this war? Did we actually preserve the American way of life? Did we protect our freedoms? Did we protect the U.S. Constitution? Was any of that accomplished? And I think that's a hard question to answer. A lot of people would say no, it wasn't. I'm not sure. It's hard for me to know. But what we do know is that there are people that clearly benefited. These CEOs, these executives, a very small number of people became extremely wealthy and continue to become extremely wealthy through wars that have happened for a long time, maybe since World War II and even before. This is a reality of this. And so you think about it, and there's nuance here. It's not all black and white, but if someone is willing to allow literally millions of people to suffer in the most horrible way, and they're okay with that, and they can sleep at night because they're making a profit, you think about that person, and then you think about, well, what else are they willing to do? What else are these type of people willing to do in order to profit? If it's okay for millions of people to suffer enormous tragedy, what other suffering is okay? Is it okay that 150 million Americans suffer from chronic disease, many of them needlessly? Is that okay? Is it okay that diabetics are getting their legs chopped off and going blind and going on dialysis and having heart attacks early and dementia, and some of that, arguably much of that, is preventable? Is our food system, is it okay that we have a food system that is so horrific that this leads to this? Is it okay that we have a healthcare system that just profits enormously on all this suffering? No, you think about those things, right? And yes, there is subtlety, there's nuance, there is, there's a part of it is like, is it good for the greater good? Does a small number of people suffer so that more people can benefit? And yes, there's some of that. And no one's perfect, certainly not me. I've certainly made my mistakes over time. I've made decisions that have probably harmed people, harmed myself. No one is perfect, but hopefully you try to do your best. And you think about, this sort of line, and when is the line crossed? When is that line crossed when you clearly know you are doing evil? You clearly know that countless numbers of people are suffering, and you're not helping more people. And you know that. That to me is a definition of evil, for sure. And I think there's some people that are okay with that. And I think that's a real problem. And you think about all these people that are willing to make sacrifices, military members and their family members, in order to support this ideal, this nebulous idea about freedom and patriotism and defending our way of life. And perhaps nothing happened. We're willing to make those ultimate sacrifices, perhaps for nothing, perhaps merely so, some guy can enrich themselves off of this. But what are you willing to do when you actually can make a difference, right? You can actually make a difference in actually preserving your way of life or your freedom. What are you willing to do at that point, And there is something you can do, and you get a say in this. You get a vote in this. And I'm not just talking about your vote at the ballot box. I'm talking about what you choose every day in your life. How do you influence things? Because ultimately, winners and losers are determined. And all of us have the power to determine who's going to be the winner here. Are you going to continue to support these companies that continue to feed you garbage? Are you going to pick them to be the winners because they're such generous and kind, altruistic people? Do you think that's what's really going on? What are you supporting? Every time you go and buy this garbage that's literally poisoning you, that you're addicted to, and you feed it to your kids, and you feed it to your children, and you feed it to your loved ones, what are you supporting? Who are you supporting with that? Will you decide to pick somebody else's one? Maybe you're going to pick a rancher. I guarantee these ranchers aren't buying their sixth home on the Amalfi Coast, right? Most of them are struggling to make ends meet. You choose those type of people. We've got a company. We've got a healthcare company where we're trying to make a difference. We're trying to get people off medications. I hope we're wildly successful. I hope that we become extremely financially successful. But I will do that, if it happens, with the goal of actually, truly, truly helping people. And I think there's a difference there. And again, sometimes you have to sacrifice. Sometimes you have to compromise. But again, there's a line that gets crossed. And I think we can all sort of see where that is, And I think some of these examples of war and some of the horrible, horrible stuff that goes on with our disease system, with our healthcare system, and it goes on and on from that. But like I said, you think about who's the actual enemy here. Who is the enemy? Who's going to be the winner? Who's going to be the loser? And who decides? And I would argue that you guys decide, and you guys are picking who's winning right now. And by your actions and by your everyday choices, you're casting the die of the future and the future of your children, and so on and so forth. And so I hope that you guys will do the right thing. All right, guys, take care. We'll talk to you soon.